This works for police and it works for interrogation suspects too, right? And when you get somebody like that police captain up here saying, we got to do this, it's great for us and it's the right thing, that will get traction. Number 3, we need leaders of this, not just from the political left, but from the political right. Right? Very easy to get friends and allies on these issues from the political left. They get it right away. They don't want to see wrongful convictions. Well, nobody wants to see it. But they get this, and it has an immediate appeal to them. Right? But here's the problem. You usually can't get comprehensive reform in a state just coming from the left. And it's a funny thing about some of those allies from the left. They don't really have the courage to take it all the way. Even if they have majorities now, because they are all seeing that next campaign commercial. State Senator so-and-so, soft on crime, right? Where this stuff has succeeded, folks in the trenches have allied with people on the political right more often, or at least as often as people on the political left. Why? Those people have tough on crime bona fides already. They're not afraid of that next campaign commercial. Nobody can call them soft. They have long records of being tough. And they turn out to have very good reasons to want the system to work right. So in Ohio, where there's been big changes to the law, it's State Senator Stuart Greenleaf. No, that's Pennsylvania, excuse me. The guy in Ohio, his name will come to me. But these are all people from the right that have championed these things and made them happen. If you neglect this, your reforms are not going to get far. Number 4, money. Money. The United States Department of Justice hands out a lot of dollars every year. The totals are in the book, but it's in the billions. They give grants, they give all kinds of money for all kinds of things to local law enforcement. And there are some strings attached. You have to sign papers that say you're going to use it this way, not that way. Your department has an anti-discrimination policy. Your department does this right, and so forth. Let's just have another couple of strings. All right? You want the money? Adopt the best practices. So, you don't have to have our billions of dollars. You think you can do without it in this climate? Go right ahead. You don't have to apply for those grants. You want to do without it? It's okay. But if you take it, you gotta have sequential lineups. You gotta have blind lineups, things like that. I remember this working. Those of you of a certain age can probably remember too, when the speed limit was 55 miles an hour everywhere, right? Now that wasn't a great idea in certain ways, but the transportation department said, you want the federal money? 55. It's amazing how all the states fell in line. Later years they said, you want the federal transportation money? Lower the drunk driving number to 0.08. They all fell in line. This is effective. Number 5, preserve evidence. Preserve evidence. Okay? Some states do a very good job at this. Some states do not so good a job at this. The United States Supreme Court said it is not a constitutional requirement to keep evidence preserved. There's no constitutional requirement that states do that. But if it isn't a constitutional requirement, it is still a moral requirement. And it can be a legal requirement at the state level. States are free to do more than the Constitution requires all the time, and they often do. Right? There are people right now, I bet you've met some of them through this program, walking around on the earth who would be dead, who would be executed, were it not for the fact that by some quirk, the blood evidence was saved in their case. And the case stuck around long enough, the sample stuck around long enough that along came DNA and it changed everything. We don't know what the technology is going to do in 5 years. Right? There could be something else around the corner. In fact, there is. I'll tell you about it. But this is an imperative. We have got to save the evidence. Is there a cost to this? Of course there is. But the cost to not doing it, to having people who are actually innocent go to jail forever, basically, or go to their deaths, is too high. We have to pay this cost. Last, judges, defense lawyers. I've talked a lot about police. I've talked a lot about prosecutors. These people are in on this too. They have to step up. You know, judges have the say on whether scientific evidence gets into court. They decide. And since the Dauber case that some of you are probably familiar with from Supreme Court almost 20 years ago, the Supreme Court said, federal judges, you're the gatekeepers against bogus scientific evidence. How do they do? Well, turns out they're pretty aggressive about this when the evidence is in civil cases and when it's brought against large companies, drug companies and breast implant companies and whatever else, when there's a mass tort suit. The judges are pretty good at throwing out the bogus evidence. But not so willingly in criminal cases where the scientific evidence usually comes from the prosecution. They have to be just as exacting with science, to expect scientific standards to be followed with all kinds of evidence, not just the stuff that they think is more important. And defense attorneys, they have to make them do it. Right? They're the ones who got to stand up on their hind legs and bark, bark, bark until judges start doing this. And it may take 10 times, it may take 50 times, but it's got to be done. Right? So they're part of the solution too. Right? I'm going to give you one example of how this has worked out in a jurisdiction, and then I'm going to close. Here's somebody I'd like you to know about. This man is named Beverly Lake. He is the former Chief Justice of North Carolina. And it was a lucky day when I came across him and got to interview him. Justice Lake is a stalwart of the North Carolina Republican Party. He was very, very clear and eager to tell me how conservative he was. He did not want me to have any doubts about that. He explained to me that he had been brought into the modern Republican Party in North Carolina by Jesse Helms. Right? He had lineage, and nobody could call him anything less than really conservative. Justice Lake, very interesting story. Judges generally, but justices too, have law clerks. And a few years back, he had a law clerk who had worked in an Innocence Project office at her law school in North Carolina. I forget, Wake Forest, I don't remember which one. Right? And he took this law clerk on to do the job for a year or two. And she was really very involved in this work. And he had noticed too that North Carolina had its share of wrongful convictions. Right? Not more than a share. I mean, North Carolina was no Dallas, but they had some. And he was concerned, and his law clerk really helped him to understand what was going on in this, and he became very concerned about it. Why? Because, as I said before, people on the right side of the spectrum, they have real stake in this. They have a real stake in this. His concern was for the integrity of the system. Here's what he said to me. He said, I saw these wrongful convictions, and with every one of them, with all those news stories, I began to have a fear. The integrity of the system was being undermined. He said to me, David, I believe in the death penalty. I think the people of North Carolina need the death penalty. And my great fear is that if these wrongful convictions keep happening, juries won't give out death verdicts anymore, and I can't have that in this state. Now, maybe that wouldn't be your approach to the issue. Maybe it wouldn't be mine, but he's completely real about this. I mean, this is why he was concerned about the integrity of the system. He knew it had to be fixed. This is the man who could bring together all of the major players in the justice system of North Carolina, whether they're prosecutors, defense lawyers, members of the legislature, members from the governor's office, brought them all around the big table in his office, and he got them to work together. He got them to look forward into the future. How are we going to prevent this? Right? The right focus brought out by the right person. And they had real success. North Carolina was the very first and so far only state to create an independent body to look at cases that might be wrongful convictions. It's called the North Carolina Innocence Inquiry Commission. They reformed their identification systems. They're reforming their interrogation practices. Lots of things have happened there that a lot of people didn't expect. They had their champion from the right side of the spectrum. They had prosecutors and police involved in the process. They looked to the future. They had some real success. And this pattern seems to come up whenever a state does something like the reforms in Ohio. Same sort of deal. All right? So, good example. This guy's an example too, but we'll skip him now. All right, so let me stand here because I'm not naive. I'm not looking for perfection. Woe unto the person who looks for perfection in the criminal justice system. You will be gravely disappointed on all counts. Right? But we can do better. We owe it to the people who get sucked up into the system, but more than that, we owe it to ourselves to do the best that we're able, given the knowledge, the learning, the science that we have. Nobody's saying we have to be perfect, but we need to be as good as human beings running a human system can be. It's not perfect.